All right, hey, Del Jackson, it's Wednesday. It's got to be LO Hoops Zoom night. It's got to be. Andy's here. We got Coach Rocky Parise, or ex-Coach Rocky Parise. He's got his E-Town stuff on. Andy got his E-Town stuff on. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything. You know, with Rock, I mean, he's been a high school player, real good high school player at McDevitt. Really good college player, had great college career at E-Town. And has worked through the ranks, you know, as assistant coach, head coach, kind of seen it all type of guy. And we're going to talk about his company a little bit. So we'll start with you, Rock. Just kind of tell us, just give us briefly, and I know it's a long history, just give us briefly of where you've been and where you're at now. And then we'd like to talk a little bit about your business before I turn it over to Andy.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to see you guys. You know, my heart's transferred from the mid-pen to the LL. You know, growing up being a Harrisburg mid-pen guy, going to Bishop McDevitt, you know, the feelings towards the LL wasn't that great, just being honest with you, as a player at McDevitt. But I think a lot of that's changed through the years. And I think, you know, you guys deserve some credit for that, for publicizing the league and you know, getting the league out there. So you guys do a great job with that. I hope you continue to do that. And now that I'm retired, I'd love to chip in and help whenever I can. So we'll just throw that out. But yeah, so went from McDevitt. Yeah, I had an okay career there, kind of up and down. And Coach Slosser recruited me to go play at Etown College. Had a great 4-year run there that obviously culminated in us making it to the national title game and coming up short, which, by the way, we were up 10 points with 12 minutes to go in the national championship game, and we lost by 22. All right, so we'll throw that out there real quick, and then we'll move on from that. Yeah, so after that, I decided that I wanted to, you know, stay in E-Town. Met my wife. She's from Red Lion, so me being from Harrisburg, her Red Lion, E-Town was right in the middle of that between our parents. Stayed in E-Town and decided I wanted to dig in and try to help out, make basketball better in E-Town and give back to the community a little bit. And that's what I've done the last, you know, 18 years or so. So that's kind of a history with me.
Awesome. Hey, I know you and I have a little bit of E-Town blood between us. I was there before you were there. And I remember working at camp, and I remember having you out for a demonstration, and we were doing layups. And you're like, what the heck are you doing? And I'm there like, okay, how far can you take off? And I swear I had you taken off for about 45 feet without walking. And you were like shaking your head. You said, no, I can't. And then it was so funny. I remember that to this day. I mean,
and you know what's crazy about that is I do that same stuff now, Del. I love that, because you were talking about, you know, being efficient with your footwork and, you know, not taking the little baby steps and the baby dribbles. And I remember that to this day. Yeah, I was probably an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid working camp. And this guy from Donegal High School, head coach, comes out having me do all these crazy drills. And, you know, it's crazy because I never did them before. But then once you kind of realized what you were doing, the stuff that you were doing was very advanced, put it that way.
Well, the thing that was cool about it, and I never had a player do it. I mean, I was a head coach for 14 years, high school head coach for 14 years. And I never have a guy take off from like outside that line, but I was thinking if they ever did, I would see this in my head. You know, it's like, you know, you got to look at it, you got to look at the play. So Anyway, that was a cool story. I remember that to this day. And then, you know, obviously I followed the Blue Jays and coach a little bit. So I want to hit one of the things that struck me. You and I had a nice relationship as far as via email and text, not necessarily we went and sat down in X and O, but I know that we dealt with the highs and lows of coaching. So can you tell me how you deal with that, or how you dealt with that, the highs and the lows? Obviously you had some success at E-Town, but you know what, you had some struggles too. There's no doubt about it. You know, and people remember the last thing, but they don't remember what it takes to get there. So can you kind of share how you dealt with it yourself and how you dealt with your kids getting over some humps?
Yeah, well, my dog's freaking out. So I have a little 7-pound dog named Buster. And hopefully Buster can be quiet for a little bit.
Didn't work.
Yeah. So no, but you know what, the ups and there was some ups and downs, man. And I wasn't ready for that. You know, there's something to be said about being humbled. And, you know, with having the success that I had in college as a player, and then having the success that I had coaching in the AAU ranks, and having the success that I had in being an assistant coach at Etown, you know, I mean, my first year at Etown High School, we went to the state playoffs for the first time in program history.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, the second year, we had the best record in school history, and went to the state playoffs again. And you know, doing all that, you know, really made me think I had it all figured out. You know what I mean? And once it was my turn to take over and be the head coach, I was going to be able to keep that rolling. And you know, there is something, and I'll say this to every kid or every potential coach or every potential player. There is definite value in being humbled. And I'll tell you what, that first year I was humbled because I thought I had it all figured out, and I could take these guys from, you know, to being a playoff contending team that had never really played before at the high school level. And it didn't happen. And, you know, we had a lot of pitfalls that year. There was issues with parents. There was issues with players. And, you know, looking back on that, I think there's fault in all of us with that. I think there's things that I could have done different. I think there's things the players and the parents and everybody could have done different. But, you know, ultimately you look back on it and you realize that that was a stepping stone to get us, you know, where we needed to be. And after that first rough year, it was like, okay, you know, we're going to dig our feet in, we're going to pull our pants up, and who's with me? And there was a bunch of guys that jumped off the bus, and there was a bunch of guys that jumped on the bus, and those guys that jumped on the bus were, you know, eventually the ones that got us to what we did the last 2 years.
Nice. Hey, I'm going to come back at the end. I want to really talk about your business, but I want to turn it over to Andy, and you know, he's followed you in a different light than I have. So go ahead, Andy.
What's up, Rock?
What's up, my man?
How you doing? Hey, just I guess right off the top, the decision to step away this past year, was that something that was kind of premeditated in your mind, whether it was in the back or the forefront of your mind heading into this past season, or was there something, whatever it might have been, that kind of crystallized for you, and you know, which made you make the decision which you did to, in fact, step away after this past year?
Yeah, so I turned 40 years old on November 2nd last year, and that's when I decided this was it for me. So I knew before the season started that was going to be it for me. You know, I don't know what it was. 40 years old hits certain people different ways. You know, I love my family. I love my wife. I'm really happy with my job. I'm really happy in my marriage. You know, it was like, but something needed to change. And that obvious change was basketball, because, you know, with all those ups and downs, through it all, I feel like I just needed something different. You know what I mean? Like, I needed Thanksgiving to be Thanksgiving. I needed Christmas to be Christmas. I needed summer to be summer. And with the way that we did it, look, people aren't going to like this, but the only way you can be good is if you get after it 10 or 11 months a year. That's the only way that you can have a successful basketball team and a basketball program. So I'm sorry out there to the people listening to this saying that, you know, multi-sport athletes, great, but those athletes still need to be with us as much as they can for those 10 or 11 months a year. And those 10 or 11 months a year grinded on me, especially the last 3 years. Because like I said, after that first year, I decided I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this doesn't happen again. And I dug in and put so much time in and so much effort. And that's really the only way that you can do it. And, you know, I was thinking it was like November or December when I decided that. And to think, you know, yeah, we're going to have our season, and then a month after a season, we're going to start up open gyms and weightlifting and summer league and youth camp and team camp, and then fall. Like it got overwhelming to me. And, you know, I kind of realized it was sort of like a bucket list item. Super, like we talked about that national championship run in 2002. Del, I am even more proud of what we did the last 2 years at Etown High School because of where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
how much effort went into it. So, you know, to be able to step away and walk away, not quitting, but actually walking away after you achieve something meant a ton to me.
Yeah. One of the cool things that we get to do is we get to be close with you guys, and we learn some of these stories. And I know this is something you share with myself and with my brothers in arms, with John and Kyle, and with their publications and everything. But for those that haven't heard it, please tell the story of, I guess it was your first or second year, you lost whatever game it was at home. You're in the coach's room, and your guys' current overall record for however long you've been there is there staring you in the face, and what you felt at that moment. And then from that moment on to eventually playing a Catholic League team in the state playoffs. Just kind of walk me through that, because that's one of the better stories I've had the privilege of coming across doing this last couple.
Yeah, and it was such like a rock bottom story too, man, because you talk about like the success that I had as a player and as a coach and everything, and thinking I had it all figured out, to basically going 5-17 that first year. And the second year we started out, I want to say 2-9, I think it was. So I want to say we were 9-26. I think that was the number. And after we went 9-26, you know, I had it written up on the board there, and I'm just sitting there staring at it, and my hands are over my head. And, you know, my coaches come walking in, and Lee, the big guy, like, he's been there for me every step of the way. I said, Lee, I can't do that. I'm terrible. I'm not a good head varsity back. Maybe I was a good assistant. Maybe I was a good player. Maybe I was a good AAU coach, but clearly I'm not a good high school coach. And he said, Rock, you're a great coach. The wins are going to come. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And that's coming from a 25-year-old, 24-year-old kid. You know what I mean? I was 38 years old at the time. So so thankful for him, you know, believing in me and believing in us and what we were doing. And honestly, I finished my career with a 52-52 record. So to go from 9-26, you know, we had a lot of success then from that point on. And I have it in my phone. I took a picture after the last game, but after every game from there on, I would have 9-26, and then what our record was after that, and then the total record. And after every game, you know, we would go in there and we would change it, and we would look at it, and it would mean so much to us. So to be able to end up with a 500 career record after starting like that was pretty special. Yeah.
This is kind of for my own curiosity, but maybe for other people as well. I'll admit, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about Etown, the community in and of itself. And obviously, you've seen it from every possible angle. A private citizen, you played at the college, you coached the high school team. What's kind of the vibe around Etown? Is it like do you feel like a kind of a quintessential Lancaster County type town, like a Manheim that just so happens to have Etown College in it? Or does it actually feel like a college town? Or how does that work? Because like when I think of Millersville, I think, okay, the university kind of runs the show, and like Penn Manor kind of occupies that same space. But how does it work at Etown? I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mix between all that. And what's interesting is, you know, and I'm still not an Etown guy, believe it or not. Like, you know, there's people around here, I'm still from Harrisburg. You know what I mean? Like, even though I've been here since 1998, 22 years that I've been here, you know, I've dug in and put a lot of work in the town. And what I always say, and actually I talked about it in the interview when I applied for the high school job, was, you know, Etown backs winners. Sure, there's a bunch of guys in the community and a bunch of older people that back the sports teams that they like no matter what. But I'm telling you what, when you win, whether it's at the college, I mean, guys, in the college, our last month of the season, we had 2,500 people in the stands at the college. There's people coming from all over. The entire town is there. And then, you know, in the years that I've been at Etown, 2009, when we were great, that gym was packed. You know, the people come out to support you. But when you're not so good, you know, I don't know if I'm going to go out and see a 5-17 team. You know, I'm just being honest. So the community is a community that really backs their teams. But when their teams win, man, it's like something special here in Etown, which I think makes it a little different. You know, I think some towns, there's always maybe a consistent support. But here it's like, man, when there's some success, there's really an uptick. And you saw that with soccer, you saw it with baseball, you saw it with basketball, you saw it with football. It's a really interesting community. And growing up, I never really had that sense of community. I grew up out on the outskirts of the Central Dauphin School District, and I didn't have a town where I could, a square. You know what I mean? Like, so to be, that was one of the draws of moving to Etown, was it was a town, like, centered around the center, downtown square, and then from out, so there is something about that I think is pretty special in Etown.
Yeah. You had the opportunity to do something unique, whether this is your last chapter in coaching or whatever. It is the end of a chapter. And when I say unique, I'm not talking about the obvious factors, such as, taking a team from the bottom and eventually going to the state playoffs, winning the biggest game in school history, or even the fact that you got to coach your son for all 4 years of his high school career. But unique in the sense that you got to leave on your own terms. And I think we've seen the examples here locally. We see it nationally all the time. It follows the same familiar script. Somebody that has strong, differing opinions kind of rockets right past that chain of command and gets in the ear of somebody that's pretty important. And next thing you know, you have a really messy situation on your hands for everybody. And again, just from the outside, it certainly seems like you left this in a great place for whoever takes over the ship, because everybody seems to be rowing in the right direction. I'm just wondering, was that something that went into your decision making as well? And is that something as a coach, I don't want to say you got out and make it seem like you guys are always living in fear of the boogeyman behind you or anything like that, but is there some sort of truth to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, I'm so over relitigating the past or anything like that, but now that we're away from it, I was put up with a vote. I almost got fired, after that first year or two. I was put on a performance improvement plan. I had people that wanted me gone. And to persevere through that, and to turn things around the way that we did, meant a lot to me. So, I do think though, in certain school districts, like you think about the big perennial powerhouses, Lancaster Catholic, schools like that, they're never really going to have, a 5-17 year. I mean, they might, but probably not. And I feel like school districts like Etown and I'm not going to rattle off different names, but there are school districts where there's constantly going to be ebbs and flows of, talented athletes coming through, good teams, bad teams, things like that. And fortunately for me, I had that talent coming through. Unfortunately for me, they were freshmen and sophomores my first year as a head coach, which didn't make the juniors and seniors happy. But, I was fortunate enough that I had that talent coming up through. And, seriously, the biggest thing that I learned being a high school coach is, you're only as good as your players. I could have done whatever I wanted. I did that first year. I thought I was doing everything the right way and we weren't winning. So, luckily we had Larry Locker and Elijah Eberly and Ryan and, Amos Colley and Brody Beach and Luke Pearson and Dylan Swieger and, so many of those talented players who grew up with me, come up and really give us that success that we were hoping we'd have.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your candidness with that. I just wanted to ask that because that's kind of a state of the union with coaching, and I just want to get somebody who's been out of the game here fresh to get their 2 cents. So that was kind of a heavy question. I'll end with a fun one. You were kind of the first group that embraced that new Twitter wave once you took over the job. And I'll be totally honest with you, that kind of curried some favors. And, I followed you guys from a distance, I guess, if I wasn't there in your camp every day. And I was looking at the schedule and it's like, oh yeah, Etown plays tonight. I'll go watch them because I kind of know what's going on. It's just a good way for everybody to kind of stay involved with what you guys are doing. Mm-hmm. Does that come from just being a young guy, or is it that plus there's obviously a significant benefit because obviously as someone with the media, I'm just telling you, it endears yourself to us and it only helps you show off your product?
Yeah. So what's interesting about that, this is going to be a crazy answer, but I was always big on branding the program. And I got that from Bishop McDevitt High School, 1995. They won the state championship in football. And there's just this big there's this 6-thing podcast that Eric Thomas did. And it was awesome. And if you guys can listen to it, listen to it. But, you know, the head coach there, Ford Chapman, he talked about how they made a logo for the football team. And they had all these cool T-shirts and they had these sayings. And I saw that as a high school kid, and I saw what was happening, you know, as a 15, 16-year-old kid. I was like, everybody wants to play football now because of this cool clothes and sayings and logo and everything like that. And that always stuck in my head. And it's funny, you know, back when I was assistant in 2008, 2009, 2010, you know, I would tell Kevin Dolan, I said, we need to brand this program. And he's like, brand the program? It's a high school basketball. And I was like, no, we need a logo and this and that. And, you know, he just kind of looked at me with this weird eye, like, what is this guy talking about? And when I got the job, I was like, okay, here it goes, man. Like, I'm going to try to do exactly what that football team did. Obviously, you know, Elizabethtown basketball is a little different than Bishop McDevitt football, but the premise was the same of, you know, getting that claw ball out there. And, you know, that's kind of where the whole Twitter thing came from too, was, you know, just trying to put us on the map. And I knew that I had Larry Locker coming up who could dunk the ball like nobody's ever seen in the LL. Maybe. I'll just say that. I'll probably get tons of backlash for that. So, but yeah, I'm like, you know, I need to get these dunks out there because, you know, see this guy dunking, they're going to be like, oh man, what's going on down in Etown? And then they start noticing some other things. And my outlet to do that was with Twitter. And I really, you know, I took an interest to it, and it just started, you know, snowballing. I mean, we started out with 10 followers, and I think we're up to 700 followers or something like that. And what's crazy about that medium is I posted Larry's dunk from the state playoff game, his senior year. And there's been over 40,000 people that have seen that video. 40,000. And it just makes you realize like all it takes is effort. It's a free medium that's out there. You know, I didn't know anything about Twitter than, you know, the 65-year-old guy down the street, but I learned, you know, I committed to it. I learned about it, and I saw, you know, what it could do for our program and for our players. And I think it's been such a good tool for us. So I'll give you a really good story about this, Andy and Del. So we're playing in that state playoff game against Johnstown. And those Johnstown coaches, they're great. I love those guys. So after the game, it might have been before or after the game. I don't know. Lee and Brock are over talking to the assistant coach, and the assistant coach is like, man, they're like, yeah, that's Larry Locker. And Lee and Brock are like, what? And the guy's like, my players have been talking about Larry Locker since December because of all the dunks that you guys post on your Twitter account. And this is a team out in Pittsburgh that would never have heard of Elizabethtown before. Right. You know what I mean? So it's such a good tool. I challenge, if somebody's watching this out there, use it for your kids. Use it for your program. You know, help yourselves get on the map. Help your players get on the map. I just think it's such a positive. If you use it positive, you know, that's the other thing. Like as players, we had a 12-hour moratorium. You can't tweet or respond to anything on Twitter, Facebook, anything for up to 12 hours after a game. Because it could go really, really south. Guys start talking to each other. You know, so we really talked about that and taught them about that as well. But big believer in the whole medium. And I challenge all the coaches out there to get on there and promote your team and promote your school and promote your players.
Amen. Say it louder for the people in the back, please. Yeah. Speaking of which, and promotion, I got some goodies here on the wall. I'll be happy to show off. But Boston, why don't you take? Yeah,
let's go into this a little bit because you know, one Rocky's been a good friend to us, and the Twitter is cool to follow and all that stuff. And he's talking about growing and everything. So he started a new business. So Andy's got one of your products on the screen. You got 3 of your products behind the screen. Tell us about what you do and what it's all about and where people can go to get a little love here on MyJersey. MyJersey. Go ahead.
Cool. So, so the name of the company is MyJersey Designs. And, you know, I always have ideas, and, you know, I tell my kids and my wife my ideas, and I never do anything about it. And about a year ago, I said something about an idea, and my kids were like, "Oh, you have all your ideas, but you never do anything about it." And, you know, I was kind of like, okay, well, I guess it's time. As a dad, as a role model, whatever, I guess it's time I gotta step up and do something, you know, whether it works or not. And we don't know if it's worked yet, but we got it off the ground. And part of me was like, you know, what I did with the Etown basketball program through social media with promoting it and everything, I was like, I think I can do that for a business. So I actually had this idea. 2 years ago, I asked the school district for Larry, Amos, and Dylan's Swigger's senior jerseys so I could frame them for them. And this is how crazy public school districts are. We were getting new uniforms. We got new uniforms last year. So those uniforms were not being used anymore. So I thought they'd just give them to me. Nope. We had to pay $100 per jersey so they could buy a replacement jersey for the set of uniforms that they were no longer using, that were going to sit in storage for the rest of eternity. And I'm thinking, you know, this doesn't make sense. But the reason is, it's because everything's got to be fair, right? Not everybody gets new uniforms every year. So we can't just give those uniforms everything. Everybody's got to be fair, everything like that. So, I bought these jerseys. They were $100 a piece. And then I started looking into how much it cost to frame them. And you could get on Amazon and get like a $60 shadow box, and you could put pins in them and everything like that. And it would look terrible because I had a jersey that was like that. So that led me down a path where I started thinking, you know, I wonder if we could graphically design these jerseys and print them and frame them life size, make them look life size. So I will tell you this story. All right, this is important to me. My buddy Kyle Conrad, he's the head coach of Governor Mifflin. Battled cancer. He fought through it. He's doing great. You know, keep it going, Kyle. Me and a guy I played in college with, you know well, Dale, Bob Parambo. We took him to one of his treatments in Maryland one day, and we're on the way back. We drop him off from his treatment, and Bob's the quietest, most unspoken guy, soft-spoken guy, and we're sitting at lunch, and he was like, you know, are you happy with your job? And at the time, the company I was working for, I wasn't happy in my job. And he said, well, you know, start your own company. And I said, what do you mean start my own company? He's like, give me some ideas for companies. So I started rattling some ideas off. And I had this idea about the jersey. He said, that's a good idea. And he said, do you know any graphic designers? I was like, well, yeah, you know, Ryan's AAU coach from 4th grade. I kind of stayed in touch with through Twitter. He's a graphic designer. He said, call him right now and set up a meeting with him. This was Friday. He said, set up a meeting with him Monday. I was like, all right. So I called Seth, who's now my partner, and we had a meeting on Friday, and he loved the idea, and we just started rolling with it. Did a bunch of prototypes. You know, he's a great graphic designer. He really tweaked the shadowing and the textures and to make them look real. You know, we found a company that produces them for us just the way we want them. And you know, it kind of turned into something, and now we're coming up on our 100th jersey sold. Andy's got 2 of them on his wall back there. Our website's going to be launching here probably in a couple weeks. And you know, we have a really special guy who we did a free one for, who's got 200,000 followers on Instagram. That's kind of been our marketing thing, was make them for free for guys who have a lot of followers on social media. They'll tweet them out, or, you know, put them on Instagram and then get the word out for us. So when we hit the send button, or when this guy hits the send button on that one, it could get a little crazy, but we want to have the website up first. And as you can see, you know what I mean? They're just pictures. You know, I know that there's a little bit of a glare right now, but they're graphics, and they're printed on one sheet of paper. There's a lot of customization that you can do it. I know we put some sniper icons on Andy's jerseys. And
I'm off. I'm showing them off and giving somebody an up close because it's on my phone, so I can move.
Yeah. Why don't you do that, man? Why don't
All
you
right. So I got to make sure I'm doing it right and I don't screw it up. So this is, I don't know if y'all can see this because I got the phone facing the opposite way, but this is,
looks good.
This is the black one. that I wore my senior year, I changed my number to 25. I figured maybe that would do me some good. Not really, but I changed. So over here then, I have 34, which is the white version, obviously, that I wore my sophomore and junior year. And for a side-by-side, this is a little collage that our team photographer back in the day made for us. So you can kind of see an example of what the real one looked like in comparison to what Rock's company does with MyJersey. And it's pretty damn near right on. I mean, the black amazing. One looks fantastic.
No, that's
and
amazing.
It's the white one too, but I mean, it's a phenomenal product.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, thank you.
That's amazing. Now, hey, Rock. So we're gonna have some people watching this. Believe it or not, we might have 300 people tonight. You know, you never know. You know, you get on that Twitter, maybe we'll have 350. You never know. You never know.
I'll do it. I'll work it.
So
I'll work it.
If somebody wants to check this out, what do? They got to take a picture. They got to send it to you. How can they get started?
Yeah, so I mean, go follow us on Twitter. We're at MyJersey Designs. If you're not on Twitter, shoot me an email. It's myjerseydesigns@gmail.com. All we need is either a photo of the jersey. If you don't have that, we need a photo of you playing in your jersey. If you don't have that, go to your yearbook and give us a team photo from your yearbook, whether it's black and white, whether it's color, whatever. You know, just something that we can start with. Then we kind of, you know, make our rough draft. We'll send it back to you. You can tweak some things. Colors aren't right, whatever. Make sure it's just right before we send it off to production. And then in about a week, you'll have your jersey at your door, well packaged, and you can hang it right up on your wall.
What's about a turnaround time? So if I'm going to start tonight, and if I do Del Jackson number 30, Ambo Cleona 1975, how long would it take for me, more or less? I know you got to get back and forth with proofs, but about how much is it turnaround?
Yeah, I'd say 2 to 4 weeks. I'd say right now, we just got pretty much all of our orders taken care of. So I think right now you're looking at about 2 weeks, but depending on how many orders come in, you know, you're looking at about 2 to 4 weeks. And probably as the busier we get, I mean, we only have one graphic designer, that's my partner. You know, maybe it'll take 4 or 5 weeks, but it is a fully customized piece of art, basically. And people got to realize that it's not something that happens quickly, but
that's cool. That's cool. Hey,
and we could even maybe do an LL Hoops jersey. Did you see the ABC 27 one that we did?
Yeah. I was a little jealous. I'm like, okay, now wait. LL Hoops, you know, it's like, I'm okay with it. I'm good. I got a lot of gear, you know. It's good.
Maybe we'll get an LL Hoops jersey taken care of.
You would look good in an LL Hoops staff shirt. I'm telling you right now.
I see it in the future.
We're gonna put you to work next year somehow, some way. We'll be linked at the hips.
I would love it. I don't know if you heard too. I'm starting a podcast. That's going to be launching next week with Kevin Sheeler from Central York, the former Central York head coach.
Send it our way, baby. We'll put it up on the website. We're running out of time a little bit, and I want to thank you and what you do, and I really love this MyJersey thing. You know, a shameful plug. You're part of our sponsorship, so you know that's not the reason you're here, but it's kind of cool to see growth. You know, you were talking about the Twitter thing with Andy and I, and you know, LL Hoops been around for 20 years, and I swear everything changes. Here I am doing Zoom. You know, last year, what's a Zoom? You know, who would know? Yeah. Now it's like, I think this is going to be one of our things we're going to do weekly. We're going to try to do maybe a Sunday night thing. One quick question before I run out of time, and I've been asking this to all the coaches. We did some live stream. We did a couple of your games in the last couple of years. Do you think people would pay for view for the LL championship game? $5?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, okay. Especially if you got people who are out of the area. You know, absolutely $5. Okay. I wouldn't go any more than $5, but I think people are out of the area that want to see it. Absolutely. You would just have to figure out how to make that all work with.
Yeah. We can make that work. It just we have fees, and you know, we've been doing it for free and getting advertisers, and I'm afraid this year getting advertisers is going to be really, really rough the way things are going right now. Hopefully.
Well, MyJersey will get you some advertising bucks.
Attaboy. Andy, you got anything else? We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, I do. Since he's out of the game now and he's talking about the LL championship game, he has no connection. So who's going to be there at Township this year? That's what I want to know.
Well, look, man, near and dear to my heart, you got two things. You got Blue Jays and you got claw balls. All right. So I still believe in my guys. I believe in Luke. I believe in Pat. I believe in Teach. I believe in all those guys.
That's
but
one. That's just one. You got to have two.
I'll tell you what. My man Bird has a nasty team back with Warwick. And I know you got the jersey hanging back there, man. But they got a team, if Joey's healthy, you know, Kai, I mean, that's going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Man, good choice. Hey, thank you, everybody. I mean, we had a good time. We always have a good time, don't we, Andy? I mean, it's you're talking hoops with these guys, and you can feel their enthusiasm for the game, and it's kind of cool to relate to some of their struggles and how they got to there, and you know, it's kind of neat. I mean, Rock was talking about, you know, the ups and downs of teams. And I can say probably during the LO history, probably every team has gone through the valleys and the peaks, you know, at some point. So
you bet. But you know, to get there though, to you know, to win, you don't appreciate that much unless you go through the bottom.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Hey, we're out of time. Thank you. We'll see you guys. Appreciate it, buddy.
See you guys.
See ya.